Hey, unbelievably, it came in the original box. This Meylan 12-hour pocket stopwatch. Really just beautiful. Plastic crystal on that. And the back is what really caught my attention. These weren't that jeweled a movement, but they did include this little parts box. Let's see if that balance works. Yes. All right. That doesn't look broken. All right. Well, yeah. So the balance staff looks good, and there is a spare one in here if it was broken. That is the parts bin, if you will. So we'll take that apart. We'll take the watch apart. We'll see what's wrong with it, and we'll try and get it running again. First, we have to take the face off, and man, that was a bear. I can see why that is cracked. You can see the pivots for the 3 hands here, and you can see the cam that the hands are attached to. It's the difference between a stopwatch and a regular watch is those cams. Yeah, those cams make taking the hands off very different from a regular watch. Let's take a look inside of this parts stash here in this pocket watch and see what we've got. See what we've got in terms of replacement gear in case we're going to need that, because it includes a lot of the springs that go twinging and a lot of the screws that go missing because of stuff like that. So this acrylic cover should come right off with very little, yep, just like that, very little effort. And just an acrylic color. Let's see what we got under here. Let's see, we've got, it looks like, excuse me, it looks like we got a couple of springs and some screws. That's one. It looks like a return or a click spring and a retaining spring. Here's a really small screw. Another one of different size. Another one of different size. And then that right there is the balance staff. So that's what we get in that little tool kit. So I've turned the movement over to the back side of it, and I'm taking off the gear train bridge. I'm looking at the entire gear train, and we've got the fifth gear. It's a unique gear. That's the escapement wheel. That's the second. That's the second wheel. That's the center wheel. And that one is the center wheel. First, second, third, fourth, and fifth. Anyway, that's the mainspring barrel. Everything looks really clean. I don't know why this wasn't running, but everything looks really clean. So we'll take a look on this side and pull everything apart and keep on dismantling it. But we're ready to clean it and reassemble it. I don't think you guys want to watch me pull this apart. Well, I did pull it apart, and now I'm reassembling it, and I'm oiling it with Mobius oil for the metal-to-metal contact spots. And I use a very specific order, but this whole thing has been cleaned so that everything is taking oil the way it should. These are the winding and setting gears on the face side of the watch. And if you saw me take this apart, there's this really finicky little metal spring piece right here with this really tiny screw, and there it is. And sometimes I get lucky. I don't like to say anything because it may jinx it. Here I am on the other side of the main plate, on the back side with the gear train. I'm putting in the final escapement wheel right there, which goes underneath the third wheel and underneath the whatever that carrying wheel is above it. I don't know the name for it. I'm so bad sometimes. I just love these old watches. Sometimes I don't know the name for the gears. Anyway, so put this together now. The bridge, of course, goes on top of it after I get the winding gears in the keyless works. Don't forget those. And if you're lucky, I line it up on any screw that protrudes through the main plate, like the screw that holds down the stem. And that is really good. Alright, let's see if that worked. I think that was it right there. I would say it wants to work. Okay, let's put this pallet fork on. I've cleaned. Make sure that any excess energy is out of that before I place this just like that. Bridge goes on next. Like that. Trying to get the pin to center as you go. And of course the pallet fork bridge screw. I think that may be the trickiest screw because it's easy to torque this down without continuously checking that the pivot points for the pallet fork are in. So the bridge screw is tightened slowly as the pallet fork's freedom is checked on a regular basis. You can see after I give it a little bit of a wind that jumps from side to side, and that's exactly what we want to see. We want to see that pallet fork able to kick the balance over for another return trip. So here is the balance. Let's see if we can do this delicately. I keep a finger real close to the bridge because I don't want it to fall off. I've had this happen a couple of times where the bridge has dragged the hairspring with it. So let's see if we can get that. Oh, let's see if we can get that in. That was very promising motion. Let's pressing down the back of it. Don't press down on the center of the jewel. Press down near where the screw is back here until you get good occlusion. Let's put a screw in there. That is the best clamp. It is minute, and you can regulate the pressure on the balance staff. So I'll get that seated real easily. There's almost no pressure on that. And then I'll make sure that I do the same thing I did with the pallet fork, that I keep, there it is, so that I keep that centered while I screw down the cock for the balance. Isn't that phenomenal? That hasn't run in a long, long, long time. One of the gears was corroded. That was completely gunked up. That hasn't even got that's only got 3 or 4 clicks on a wind. And here it is the next morning, and the amplitude has increased dramatically as all the oils have worked into it. It is beautifully clean. I don't know, 1960 was the last time that was clean. Here's underneath the dial. You can see I'm actuating the zeroing of the wheels by pressing that lever, and I want to do that so that when I put the face on, I can center the hands at 12 o'clock, and they'll line up with those little cams, which is what they need to do. A little bit of oil in the appropriate place, a little bit of Mobius, work the action a little more, make sure that they're centered, and then I can come in here with the face, with the hand and the cam that is stuck to it. Remember, that hand and cam are stuck, and I mean welded together. So I have to place the dial pins, the dial feet, in the holes, as well as putting that second hand on its pivot and pushing the hour and minute hands through the face as well. And this is why this whole thing was cracked to begin with, is because there is no way to pull this hand off of here. And pulling the face off, unless you do it very carefully, is fraught with, oh wow, look at that. So there I have it. I got it on here. That second hand is moving. Oh yeah, this has been a long time coming. I mean, what is that, 60 years since this watch has run? Alright, let's do the dial feet screws here and anchor this face. And then we can case this, making sure the stem hole lines up. Get some perspective on this. Make sure that the stem hole lines up so that we can put the stem in first. Right, and then we can take this over to the, there we go. We can take this over to the hand press, because the difference between a stopwatch and a regular watch is that the bearing surface, when you put the hands on, aren't on a jewel. You'll notice that actually there's a hole that shows the shaft through the hand center itself. So that is actually the end of the pivot. Well, it still works. There we go. Let's bring this over to the handstand, as I like to call it, and we'll put the hands on. Because I've centered this, I can just 12 o'clock the hands, the second hand as well, although that is already on its cam, so it's centering by itself. So let's get the minutes here. Nice clean press. I love these presses because it gets a perfectly parallel press down on the hand, so you're not angling it one way or the other, which is easy to do by hand. But by hand is the only way to straighten out a hand that's on there badly. You can see there's a pin in the middle of these hollow centers. That's what makes these different than the hands of a watch. is these have to be pulled by pushing down on that pin, whereas a watch, you pull the hand straight off. So this is it. This is it without the crystal on. You can see the bluing on the hands is absolutely stunning, and it's a beautiful, beautiful watch. I'm glad to get this running again. The face isn't too tragic, even though it is broken. Let's put the crystal on here and see what it looks like. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that is a rescued timepiece is what that is. And you rarely see a stopwatch that goes for 12 hours. The bottom dial is the hours, the top one is the minutes, the middle one is the seconds. So you can actually time a full day with this. The back, of course, absolutely clean and beautiful. As I said, it was that little parts cache that got me to want to clean this watch up. It's very hard to find those with the parts still in them, with the little acrylic still on there, with the screws. So keep a lookout. Some stopwatches have this toolkit in there, this little parts kit. So keep a watch out for that when you're looking on eBay in the backs of watches. All right, come on back and visit next time on Extraordinary Timepiece Repair.